For the past few weeks, we have been speaking about Disney's week from hell. But the thing is that as it is right now, every week is Disney's week from hell. I mean, like last week we had or this week we had the shareholder call that started us off with Bob Iger being ambushed. That has been adequately covered both by WDW Pro over on his channel, by Valiant Renegade, and in our video that covered both of those, in addition to a whole stream of live shows, including on Midnight's Edge After Dark. But it didn't end there. On Tuesday, someone had enough and decided to speak out in the financial press, namely Ike Perlmutter. Now, Perlmutter, of course, is the person who brought Marvel to Disney in the first place. He is one of the largest shareholders of Disney for that very reason. He used to run all of Marvel until he was outmaneuvered by Kevin Feige and Victoria Alonso. And what was his big crime? Well, he wanted them to be fiscally responsible. And the moment that he was removed, that's when budgets exploded. And one of the things that he said in this interview is that what he stood for was to keep budgets in check, because he didn't care about box office. That's for Hollywood types. What he cares about is the bottom line. And in order for profit to happen, budget and creatives needs to be kept in check. But that wasn't all. WDW Pro, please take us through it. What more did Mr. Perlmutter say when he spoke out? And why is that also bad news for Disney?
Well, Mr. Perlmutter is no fan of Robert Iger, that's for sure. He's no fan of Disney leadership. He seems to have been saying for quite a while that Kevin Feige is a problem. Now that Feige is no longer constrained, maybe we're all realizing that he has some truth to his words. I think the big news from this, though, is that simply put, Ike Perlmutter was fired, not, at least that's what he says, it's not that his position was axed as a result of the job layoffs that have become necessary because, again, Disney hasn't been able to control their budgets. And so that may be part of the reason that he's able now to speak so freely. One of the things that I find interesting about this is that Ike Perlmutter has something like $3 billion worth of Disney stock. And we were just covering for weeks on end the potential proxy war that was coming via Nelson Peltz. Now, Nelson Peltz and his Trian group, they only have about $1 billion of Disney stock, yet we thought that was tremendous. And it just so happens that Ike Perlmutter and Nelson Peltz are very, very good friends. They are neighbors, and they go out to dinner together, they and their wives. So if you think about it from that standpoint, I don't imagine that Nelson Peltz is very happy right now. No, I can't be a prognosticator of financial futures, but what I can say is that if you combine those two individuals together, my math tells me that's $4 billion of Disney stock. And if I look at some of the other major players out there who may be disinclined to continue with Disney's track record, I'm looking at you, George Lucas, and what they've done to your precious Star Wars, essentially desecrating the story that you created with Anakin and Luke and handing this all over to Palpatine and his progeny. But I can imagine that he's real thrilled watching his franchise be burned to the ground. I start to see that as Disney closes in on dismal ratings and dismal box office results, and potentially the parks also suffering in the future as well, it becomes less difficult to imagine a future where a successful proxy war could potentially result in major change at the top. And so I think, depending on how this summer goes for Disney, people like Perlmutter, who they're not officially with Disney any longer, right? He's been fired, but he still has tremendous control because of the power he holds over those stocks. I just wonder how long this company can falter before these individuals who have huge investments at Disney decide that enough is enough. I suspect that if the box office for things like Elemental, Indiana Jones, and then, oh my gosh, the Marvels coming down the road even farther, if those continue to fall, then it's very easy to get other people to come on board and say, yeah, we've seen enough here. It's time to make a change.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as like my understanding is as a shareholder, it obviously doesn't benefit him to speak out. But now that he's no longer a part of the company, despite them literally pushing him out of the company, he's in a position now where he can speak out against the company.
Exactly.
And he can say what he wants without any repercussions.
Outside of maybe to
his share, his shares. But at this point, this dude's got fuck you money. So this is all about the principle, right? Like, he's basically the Joker right now in Dark Knight, saying it was never about the money, it was about the message. And now he's sending his message. They've been all about the message for the last, X amount of years. Now he's sending the message of, fuck you, it's about money and entertaining people, and you guys have taken it to a completely other place. And I feel like this is where Nelson Peltz has made some penetrations, and this is why we saw so many people get through on the earnings call the other day and saying these things, because I think it's reached a point where we've said for a while, these people are going to basically be going, where's my money? Where is my money? You guys may be getting money from all this, DEI crap, but we're not necessarily, right? Like,
I think Andre knocked it out of the park when he was talking about the week from hell. You guys remember, it wasn't very long ago, we had the so-called Summer of Love, which was lovely in only some senses, but not in many other ways.
Was that the summer like up where you had like left-wing rioters basically?
It was mostly peaceful. It was mostly peaceful. The fires were not so destructive.
They instantly went full authoritarian and started killing people. Was that what you're talking about?
I think, Andre, that Disney is now looking at a summer of hell facing them, and potentially a fall of hell, and we'll see what happens at the end of that. But I don't think that many people are going to want to ride along with Disney as they do this. So we'll see what the shareholders have to say. I'm not making any financial predictions. I'm not telling anybody out there any financial advice at all. I'm simply saying that as the company suffers significant box office failures and more divisions having issues, that I think people in charge will be called to task for that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I don't think you are wrong at all.
And I know there's been a lot of stuff said about Perlmutter. Some of it's true. And then in hindsight, you can kind of see where I start to understand more of why he acted out the way he did on certain things. The X-Men thing makes a bit more sense in hindsight too. You look back on it, it's like, I'm sure most of his frustration didn't come from the fact that there was X-Men movies and they were popular and all that shit. It probably more stemmed from the fact that Marvel made that stupid fucking deal with Fox and they got shit out of it. That's what pissed him off probably more than anything, right? Same can be said for Spider-Man. Okay, he turned around and he got him back the toy rights, arguably the most lucrative part of the Spider-Man franchise. And what did Disney do?
Tossed him to the side.
Gave him right back to fucking Sony to try and get back in on the Spider-Man game.
Yep.
I guarantee you that pissed him off. This guy, regardless of what has been said about him, he is probably the reason why we have Marvel today. There was a point when they were on the verge of bankruptcy. They made some of the stupidest fucking deals in the world with their characters. Yeah.
And folks, we've lost Paul. He is heading off. Somebody clock him and see what the speed is.
I just want to say that is the sound of fossil fuel, and I love it.
But it also sounded like you were going to comment on something I said.
I've been driving electrical, and that was some bullshit.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
But anyway,
what kind of electric have you been driving, Andre?
The hybrid Toyota. And boy, was I happy to get my diesel back again.
Electric's boring. And France is on the warpath against Germany because Germany has enacted electric only by 2035, but because the French automakers are always near bankruptcy, they don't have the money to invest in electric. So that means that, they won't be able to sell French-built cars into Germany anymore by 2035. So
it's not going to happen because Germany doesn't have electricity.
Well,
that is a problem.
They get it from Russia, burning Russia's gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to, but that was before we and another government blew up Nord Stream. So yeah,
and Greta convinced them to turn off all their nuclear reactors.
Yeah, exactly. So like great going right there. So Germany, they can.
You know what's funny?
They can announce all the electrical car, fossil fuel car bans they want, but if people there are supposed to be driving cars, it's gonna be fossil, and it's gonna be not much of them. So
this is the shit we're gonna be talking about in the next few years, because this is where movies are going. Going back to a super chat question or whatever it was we had way earlier. We were asked by Andre, and I don't think I even got to it, where we were asked if the woke stuff was going to go away, and if we had to worry about Illumination and Universal doing any woke stuff. No, we don't have to worry about the woke stuff, because they've already moved on to the environmental stuff that I've been warning people about.
Yeah,
well,
that's what migration is about.
If they'd stop cutting down trees to build their solar farms, I'd be more keen on all of this. But this will
be the next conversation.
They seem determined to send slaves out to mine it out of African mines, and then destroy the wilderness and the wildlife habitats in order to build their solar farms. I don't understand why they don't put it in the desert.
But on that note, to bring it back around to Disney, that's why I'm surprised that in all the sidestepping and stuff like that Iger did the other day, I'm surprised he didn't, try to turn it around and distract with the environmental shit, because that's where they're headed with the stuff, because that's where the money they're after now. But
he was probably calling in from his yacht, so it's difficult to do.
Yeah, well, it seemed like he was reading from scripts most of the time anyway. But Perlmutter ain't having none of this shit. So